Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy that you are taking time out of your day to join us on the program. Before we get into plants that love the heat, a word from our bee-loving friends, Honey Bee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honey Bee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar, water, and Honey Bee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see birds, bees, and butterflies dining together at the feeder. Pollinators coexist peacefully. Honey Bee Healthy Inc. is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honey Bee Healthy Original. To this show's listeners, you can enter discount code BEEGARDEN, that's like BEE Garden, at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, and more, you can go to honeybeehealthy.com.
You don't have to have a hive or be a beekeeper. You can just put that out and help feed the bees.
You are a friend to the bees.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, heat-loving plants. We talked about in the last segment ways to keep your plants cool. Now, these are plants that love the heat, that thrive in the heat. Now, keep in mind that these plants do require moisture in order to love the heat. So, and with most of these vegetables, we're going to talk about some ornamentals as well. When the ambient temperature exceeds 85 to 90, even sometimes 95 degrees, pollination quits. The plant just goes into I'm staying alive mode until the temperatures daytime get below that 90 degree Fahrenheit and nighttime get below the 75 degree Fahrenheit. That's why in certain parts of the country, such as Florida and Texas, these do not get grown during the summer months. The weeks that are triple digits and the buildings begin to melt because it's so warm, they don't grow these things.
Right.
So
let's talk about these plants. So one is sweet potatoes,
yep.
which it makes sense because I know up here we tried to grow them a couple times and we got
up here meaning Wisconsin, where the show originates from. You forget that we're on so many stations. You just assume that, it's right there. So, yeah.
So, sweet potatoes, we tried and we didn't grow them very well. So, and we heard they're the warm weather loving plants.
Well, so now that we're in a different zone, that might change things as well.
I don't like sweet potatoes. So I
know you don't like sweet potatoes.
Yeah. Anyway.
How do you not like sweet potatoes? Cucumbers are another one. That
there's also somebody who's like smacking their spouse and saying, see, I'm not the only one who doesn't like sweet potatoes.
Keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody. Cucumbers.
Yeah, cucumbers.
Now they love the heat. So don't plant them early. They are not an early season crop, meaning that the soil temperature at root zone 1 to 2 inches below soil grade, use a digital thermometer, meat thermometer works great, 65 or above consistent temperatures. This is what the cucumbers like. They do not like cold feet or cold root systems. They are short-lived. They're not going to produce for 6, 8, 12, 14 weeks in some instances. But you still need to have moisture to them. And you want to harvest these regularly. Not when they're the size of football or anything. You can harvest them, the little baby cucumbers. You can harvest them in any size, but the more frequently you harvest any of these, peppers, cucumbers, eggplants, fill in the blank, green beans, the more they're going to produce. That's their nature. They're going to keep producing because their goal is to get to a mature state of seeds inside the fruit, and then they shut off. And
cucumbers are not a long-living plants, or not producing plants.
You were taking notes that whenever I was saying that.
Yeah. I always like to say that, and I think I just forgot that you said it. So then the other one I wanted to touch on for sure was okra.
Yes.
I don't like okra, so I don't.
Also known as ladyfingers, and fun little fact, there are 135 different varieties of okra in the world.
That's a lot of okra.
Take that to the bank and cash it.
I'm not taking any okra.
Okay. Yeah. And if you don't like the sliminess of the okra, grow it, dehydrate it, then rehydrate it. The sliminess is gone.
It's still gross.
Okay.
Anyway,
it loves the heat. Go ahead.
It loves the heat. I don't know, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead. It
loves the heat. It's heat tolerant. That it's a staple in the Southern cuisine because of that reason, and that's why it's in a lot of Southern cooking, etc. Because it does do well in the heat.
It's got a very large tap root, which is not recommended for containers. we are in, as we spoke about, we're in zone 5, now in zone 6, and we were able to successfully grow okra in our garden and produce several years ago in our zone 5 area. So it's not just, I can't grow it because I'm not in Alabama or Georgia. You can grow it in the north. It won't get, tree top tall, but you can produce the okra.
Right. So then we also have, besides okra and cucumbers and what was the other one? Sweet potatoes, peppers. A lot of people don't always know this, that peppers like the heat, especially hot peppers.
Tropical plant.
Yeah, it's a tropical plant. So it does, and it also needs to be watered very consistently. There's a theme here that these plants need to be watered consistently.
Use mulch, use water in combination.
And they're pretty easy to grow for the most part if you have that heat.
If you have a nutrient deficiency, it's going to be very prevalent.
Yes.
And if you don't have a soil test and you're like, something's not right, the peppers are all wonky, they will show very, very clear sign that something's not right in your soil.
They're a garden tell.
But you still need a soil test from soilsavvy.com.
Absolutely. So another tropical plant that many people don't realize is a tropical plant is tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
And that also they also love the heat. If you've ever had a summer where it was really warm and there was not a drought, you will end up with tomatoes.
Certain varieties, though.
Yeah.
Certain varieties. And people will say, when we go to garden talks, what is the tomato that has just done everything? Black Krim. Hot summers, dry summers, wet summers, Black Krim has always produced for us. No matter what the condition. There's been other ones that's been hit and miss. There's been some that's only done good in dry or only done good in really wet. Black Krim, is, for us, we have found over the last 10 years, is the guarantee. Now, I wouldn't recommend planting a whole acre of Black Krim tomatoes. You got to have some variety. Just like in big ag, you have you got your seed, you got your corn and your soybeans, and you have 4 or 5 different varieties spread out throughout the farm. So if one takes a hit with a disease or a bug or something happens, you have backups. That not all one variety, and then one variety is done and you lose everything.
Yep. So yeah, that's a very good tip to grow a different variety. And I recommend that if you have the space for a lot of these plants, you want to grow variety. There's certain other plants like leeks. I mean, you don't need to grow a variety of those, but tomatoes, it's fun to grow a different variety, and I think it's smart. Eggplants are another one. Mm-hmm. They are in the nightshade family, so they go with the tomatoes, and they like the heat. They like the well-draining soil like any of these plants. And then you always want to make sure, just like anything else, you want to harvest them frequently. That helps their growth the best. And
larger doesn't always mean better with an eggplant.
Same thing with like cucumbers.
Yes. Even
tomatoes.
I mean, there's a certain point where you got to harvest a tomato when it's ripe, regardless of the size.
Right, absolutely. And that's something to keep in mind, is that you want to harvest, especially like the eggplant and the cucumbers, peppers, but once they get too big, they get kind of gross and woody. Before we
go to the ornamentals, sweet potatoes and potatoes are 2 different types of plants. Sweet potatoes like the heat. Regular, what we call potatoes, if the soil gets above 85 degrees, they shut off. They'll just die. And when you get your soil temperature above, at root zone, we're calling, let's say 4 inches down, if that gets above 85 degrees, you've got some very warm conditions in which that's been able to make that soil that warm. So very, very different.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what we're going to talk about next? Ornamentals? Yeah. Okay.
Ornamentals there. Let's list off some ornamentals. Zinnias.
So those are like a petally flower.
Yeah, these are ones that are heat resistant plants for your summer garden.
And then purple coneflower. Those are good. So zinnias are good for the pollinators, and so are purple coneflowers, especially like hummingbirds. They like to kind of put their little beaks in there. And then blanket flower. I'm not super familiar with blanket flower, but that sounds cool.
You know what black eye Susans are?
I do. Yes, those are the Rebecca.
And cosmos.
Cosmos are pretty too.
And these are just a handful, because we said that we would list you some ornamentals, and there's only like 30 or 40 more ornamentals that love the heat, including cacti. And you can grow cacti in the north. You've just got to bring it in in the winter.
What about a Christmas cactus?
There's possibly.
They usually, I think they bloom around Christmas,
Yes,
and that's why they call them that.
Well, we talked about heat-loving plants. The heat is here for most of us, Holly, and you will want to protect your garden with various from those beetles, borers, and including Japanese beetles.
Yeah, what better way to prevent these pests from destroying your garden than by controlling them while they are larvae? Grub Gone is easy to apply granular product that can be spread onto your turf to successfully control grub invaders. Developed by Phylum Bioproducts from a naturally occurring bacteria, Grub Gone is a non-chemical Bt product that specifically targets only scarab pests, and it's safe to use around bees and other beneficial insects.
If you already have those beetles flying around your yard, then Beetle Gone is the organic water dispersible powder that you can use to spray directly on your edible plants. Find out more about all the products they have at PhylumBioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com or BeetleGone.com. Also, the Christmas cactus likes medium indirect light. Bright indirect light to medium indirect light. So not necessarily a heat intense plant, just to clarify a few things.
Well, thanks for clarifying. I shouldn't have joked about it, but they are pretty.
Keep temperatures above 70 degrees Fahrenheit in the daytime and 55 to 65 degrees at night. And you'll have a happy Christmas cactus.